Welcome to another custom-tailored deep dive. We designed this one specifically for you. We are jumping right into a question today that I think, most of us secretly avoid asking ourselves.
Oh, totally. We completely avoid it.
Right. Like, do you actually know how much income you will have in retirement? And I don't mean the big abstract number of what you've saved up over the years.
Yeah, the pile of money.
Exactly. The pile. I mean, what that pile of money will actually produce for you to live on, month to month.
It is a distinctly uncomfortable question to grapple with. I mean, we spend decades focusing entirely on the accumulation phase.
Just making the pile as big as possible.
Right. But we do that without really stress testing the distribution phase. We don't ask how it actually comes out.
And that is exactly why we are unpacking this specific stack of sources today. We've got financial strategy video scripts, presentation slides, and these highly specific data tables.
The data tables are fascinating, especially that case study on the 31-year-old saver. Oh, yeah. The Bailey Whiten case study. It's wild. So the mission for today's deep dive is to fundamentally shift your mindset. We are looking at a framework presented by these sources that moves away from just accumulating savings and toward designing predictable income.
Designing it, exactly.
Specifically, we are going to explore how to fill what the sources call the retirement income gap. And we'll be looking at something they call an indexed strategy.
Which is key because traditional retirement planning largely relies on, a series of hopes.
Yeah.
You hope the market stays up, you hope taxes stay low, you hope inflation cools down, and you hope you don't outlive your money.
That is a whole lot of hoping.
It really is. But the source material we are analyzing today argues for a totally different structural approach. It outlines a system that aims for multiple income streams, greater predictability, and total control over taxation.
Okay, but before we can objectively look at the solution they propose, we have to deeply understand the problem, right?
We need to understand why traditional methods of saving are basically secretly failing a 31-year-old saver.
Well, the sources talk about this concept of the income gap.
Right.
And the income gap is simply the difference between the monthly income you actually need to survive and enjoy your life versus what your money is mathematically capable of producing.
Which are often two very different numbers.
Exactly. And that gap is constantly being widened by three major erosive forces. You've got inflation shrinking your purchasing power, market losses wiping out your principal, and rising taxes just eating into your gross withdrawals.
Okay, let's ground this in the hard math from the case study provided in the sources. We have our 31-year-old client, Bailey.
Right, Bailey Whiten.
Yeah. And Bailey is doing exactly what conventional financial wisdom dictates, right? Putting away $500 a month into a standard tax-deferred 401k.
A very common scenario.
Very common. Fast forward to retirement, and that consistent saving results in a pretty respectable lump sum.
And, on a typical financial statement, that balance looks like a major victory. You get that piece of mail, you see a mid-six-figure number, and psychologically you feel secure.
But here is the painful reality check from the data tables. When it comes time to actually live on that money, financial advisors often use conservative withdrawal rates.
Like the famous 4% rule.
Exactly, so you don't run out of cash. But that lump sum only safely generates a gross income of a few $1,000s a year.
Right.
And once you pay taxes on it, the sources show it shrinks to just $875 a month in actual spendable income.
Which is staggering.
It's insane. I mean, it's like staring at a massive 400,000-gallon water tank you spent your entire adult life filling, only to realize the faucet you installed only lets out a pathetic trickle.
That's a great analogy.
But seriously, let's unpack this. A lot of people think that kind of lump sum is a fortune. Why does it translate to such a shockingly low monthly income? Just $875.
Well, what's fascinating here is that we have to look under the hood at the hidden mechanics of tax-deferred accounts.
Okay.
When you put money into a traditional 401k, you aren't just saving money. You are effectively entering into a binding tax partnership with the IRS.
A partnership.
Right. You get a tax break now on the seed, but you are agreeing to pay taxes later on the harvest. And the catch is the IRS gets to decide what their percentage of the harvest is going to be when you actually retire.
So you are deferring the tax calculation to some unknown future date.
Exactly. You're essentially gambling that future tax rates will be lower.
And, according to the historical data in the presentation, Assuming taxes will be lower in the future is a massive, incredibly risky assumption.
It's a huge gamble, but, it doesn't even stop there. The sources bring up this incredibly ominous phrase.
Oh, the tax torpedo.
Yes, the tax torpedo. It is one of the most mechanically overlooked risks in standard retirement planning.
That's terrifying. What is it?
It has to do with how the IRS calculates the taxation of your Social Security benefits. They use something called provisional income.
Right, which includes half of your Social Security plus your other income, like the money you withdraw from your 401k.
Exactly. Because the money coming out of a traditional 401k is counted as ordinary taxable income, it pushes your overall provisional income up.
Okay, I see where this is going.
Right. So when you hit certain thresholds, it triggers the taxation of your Social Security benefits. Depending on those thresholds, up to 85% of your Social Security can suddenly become taxable.
Wow. So the very money you responsibly saved in your 401k to help you in retirement is actively working against your Social Security benefits.
Yes, it triggers a cascading tax event.
That drastically reduces the net income you actually have to spend.
That is the torpedo.
Right.
The faucet is a trickle because you're losing pressure to market risk and you're siphoning off a huge portion to the IRS before the water ever even reaches your cup.
Okay, well, now that we see the mechanical flaws in the traditional 401k faucet, let's look at the structural alternatives the sources propose.
Right. Where else can the money go?
Exactly. The documents break retirement income down into 4 pillars: Social Security, pension, savings, and strategy.
And most people, they only have the first 3.
Right.
And as we just saw with the tax torpedo, they often cannibalize each other.
Yeah.
That 4th pillar, strategy, is what the sources argue actually bridges the income gap. And when it comes to the savings pillar, the presentation points out there are really only 3 structural environments for your money.
Fixed, market, and indexed.
Correct.
Let's define those quickly. So fixed is safe, but incredibly slow, right? Usually losing purchasing power to inflation over time.
Yeah, like a bank CD.
And then market is high growth, but fully exposed to devastating crashes.
Exactly.
And then there's the index method. I am looking at a visual graph from the presentation slides right now, and it is a stark contrast.
It really is.
It compares the market strategy to the index strategy over a 20-year period. The market line is this jagged yellow and orange roller coaster. It plunges down, it crawls back up, it drops again.
Very stressful.
But the index strategy is a solid green line. When the market goes up, the green line climbs. But when the market crashes, the green line just plateaus.
It goes totally flat.
Yeah, creating this staircase effect.
That flat line is what the financial industry calls protected growth.
Okay.
It means you mathematically suffer 0 market losses. When the market takes a 20% dip, your account value simply locks in and stays perfectly flat.
Okay, I have to jump in here and play the skeptic for a second.
Sure.
Because looking at this green chart, it never drops. But wait, how is that possible? If it's not a fixed account, how do you get upside potential with 0 market downside?
I know, it sounds a bit like magic, right?
It totally does. What is the actual mechanism here?
Well, it's not magic. It is complex financial engineering. The mechanics of an index strategy involve linking your account's growth to a market index.
Like the S&P 500.
Exactly. But you do it without actually investing your money directly into the market itself. These products are generally issued by large life insurance companies.
Okay.
So instead of buying stocks, the company takes the interest your premium earns and buys call options on the index.
So they are basically purchasing the right to capture the market's gains without actually exposing the underlying principle.
Precisely. If the index goes up, the options pay out, and the company passes a portion of those gains to you.
But there's a limit, right?
Yes, it's usually limited by a cap or a participation rate. Say there's a 10% cap. If the market goes up 15%, you only get 10. You leave some money on the table.
Makes sense.
But, and here's the crucial part, if the market goes down, those options simply expire worthless. Your underlying principal was never in the market to begin with, so you lose absolutely nothing.
Oh, I see. It's like renting the market's appreciation without buying the house.
That is a perfect analogy.
If the housing market crashes, you don't lose any equity because you were just renting the gains. You give up the extreme top-end highs to absolutely guarantee you never experience the devastating lows.
Exactly. And this indexing engine is usually housed inside a specialized life insurance chassis.
Which the sources say unlocks 2 other massive benefits, right?
Right. Tax-advantaged accumulation and liquid access.
Okay, explain those.
Well, under current IRS tax code, the growth inside these life insurance policies happens completely tax-free.
Oh.
And you have liquid access to your money through something called policy loans, which critically are not treated as taxable income.
All right, let's take all of this theory and apply it back to our 31-year-old saver, Bailey.
Okay, let's look at the math.
We know what happened when Bailey put $500 a month into the traditional 401k. It ultimately produced a meager $875 a month in after-tax income.
A painful result.
Very. So the sources then run that exact same $500 a month through the index strategy vehicle.
And the mathematical contrast presented in the data tables is staggering.
What's the number?
According to the case study, placing that same $500 monthly contribution into an index strategy yields approximately $3,650 a month in retirement income.
Okay, wait. Hold on. I need to push back hard on this.
I figured you might.
We are talking about jumping from $875 a month to $3,650 a month.
Yes.
That is more than a fourfold increase in usable income from the exact same monthly contribution.
Yeah.
I mean, that frankly sounds entirely too good to be true. What is the catch here?
It is entirely appropriate to be skeptical.
Are there massive fees hidden in these life insurance chassis? Or what aggressive assumptions are these data tables making to get a 400% increase?
Well, you are right to ask about the assumptions. First, yes, there are internal costs. Life insurance policies have cost of insurance charges and administrative fees that 401ks just do not have. And the data tables do assume consistent, uninterrupted contributions and historically average index returns.
Okay, but still, 4 times the income.
Right. The primary driver of that massive difference isn't a magical rate of return. It is the mechanics of the tax code and the method of distribution.
Unpack that for me. How does the distribution method multiply the usable income that much?
It comes down to those policy loans we mentioned earlier. When Bailey goes to take income from this index strategy, they aren't actually withdrawing their money.
They aren't.
No. They're taking a loan from the insurance company using their cash value as collateral. Because it is legally a debt, the IRS does not recognize it as taxable income.
Oh, wow.
So that $3,650 a month is completely tax-free. It avoids the tax torpedo entirely.
That's huge.
And furthermore, while Bailey is spending that loaned money, their actual cash value stays inside the account, continuing to earn index interest.
Wait, so if the account is earning, say, an average of 6 or 7% from the index, and the loan from the insurance company costs maybe 5%?
Yes.
Your money is actually out-earning the cost of borrowing it.
Exactly. It's called positive arbitrage. You are effectively leveraging your own money.
That is fascinating.
So to answer your question about the fourfold increase, it happens because you are eliminating the massive tax drag, completely avoiding the Social Security torpedo, ensuring 0 negative return years, and utilizing positive arbitrage during distribution.
And the sources highlight that this strategy also includes what they call living benefits, right?
Yes, another major advantage.
Meaning you can access the death benefit while you are still alive if you suffer a critical, chronic, or terminal illness.
It does. It essentially builds long-term care contingencies directly into the asset. It provides another layer of defensive planning.
Okay, the math for starting fresh makes a really compelling case. If I am 31 and starting today with new monthly savings, utilizing an index strategy over a 401k seems structurally superior based on these data tables.
The numbers certainly point that way.
But what about all the people who already have hundreds of thousands of dollars trapped in traditional tax-deferred accounts? I mean, you can't just easily move a 401k or a pension without the IRS penalizing you heavily.
That is exactly what the advanced repositioning blueprint in the sources addresses.
Oh, there's a blueprint for that.
Yes, it's a highly specific 2-part system. Part 1 is what we just discussed, building a new tax-advantaged income asset like an IUL.
An indexed universal life policy.
Right. And Part 2 is strategically repositioning those existing vulnerable tax-deferred funds.
Let's get deep into the weeds on this, because the sources provided a highly detailed flowchart for our 31-year-old case study.
The Bailey-Whiten flowchart.
Yeah. So Bailey has accumulated $150,000 in deferred comp. First of all, what exactly is deferred comp in this context?
Deferred compensation is simply a portion of an employee's income that is paid out at a later date, well after the income was actually earned.
Like a 401k.
Exactly like a 401k, the primary goal is to defer taxes until retirement. But again, it leaves that money fully exposed to future tax rate hikes and market volatility.
Got it. So step 1 of this repositioning flowchart shows Bailey executing a strategic rollover of that $150,000 into an indexed IRA.
Specifically, the case study mentions an F&G accumulator plus 10.
Right. Let's define that too. What makes an indexed IRA different from a normal IRA?
An indexed IRA utilizes the exact same options mechanics we discussed earlier. You get the protected growth, the flat line during market crashes, and the capped upside.
Okay.
But because it is still an IRA, it maintains its tax-deferred status. So moving the deferred comp into the indexed IRA stops the bleeding from market volatility. The money is now safe from stock market crashes.
Which is great. But the tax problem still remains.
Exactly.
Right. Which brings us to step 2 of the flowchart, which they call the strategic rollout.
This is where it gets really interesting.
Yeah, because looking at this data table, it shows Bailey withdrawing exactly 10% from the account value annually, and then the document says explicitly to pay IRS taxes plus a 10% early withdrawal penalty. And the net after taxes and the penalty, which is about $9,450,
Yep.
is then redirected. But hold on a second.
Yeah.
The source actually advocates paying the IRS taxes and a 10% early withdrawal penalty on purpose,
It does.
voluntarily triggering a penalty. I mean, every piece of financial advice we've ever heard says to avoid early withdrawal penalties at all costs.
I know, it seems completely counterintuitive, doesn't it?
Completely.
But if we connect this to the bigger picture and look at the mathematical trajectory over a 20-year horizon, it is actually a stroke of strategic genius.
I'm listening.
Yes, taking money out of a qualified account before age 59 and a half triggers a 10% penalty on top of standard income taxes. It hurts in the short term.
Yeah.
But think back to the tax partnership analogy. If Bailey leaves all $150,000 in the IRA until retirement, the pile grows, but the IRS's share of the pile grows exponentially right alongside it.
Oh, I see.
And Bailey will be taxed on that much larger harvest at whatever the future tax rates happen to be.
So by strategically taking out just 10% a year now?
You are systematically dismantling that tax time bomb.
Wow.
By taking just a 10% distribution, you avoid spiking your current tax bracket too high in any single year. Taking the hit now on the smaller seed prevents the IRS from taxing the massive harvest later.
So you pay the tax and the penalty today, you take the net amount, that $9,450.
And you redirect it directly into an IUL policy.
So you are systematically draining the taxable, highly vulnerable bucket and using those funds to fill up the tax-free, mathematically protected bucket.
Exactly. The flowchart lays it out as a clear sequence. Reposition assets to stop market losses. Take 10% distributions. Pay the temporary penalty. Redirect the net into an income system.
And then experience tax-free growth with no future losses.
You've got it.
And when you stack all these separate strategies together, what the sources refer to as the income stack, the final results projected in the data tables are just incredible.
The final numbers are the whole point of this exercise.
Let's look at the ultimate goal for Bailey's retirement. They're combining a projected pension, their Social Security benefits, the tax-free income from IUL number 1.
Which was funded by the new $500 monthly contributions.
Right. Plus the tax-free income from IUL number 2.
Which was funded by that strategic rollout we just talked about.
Exactly. And an optional FIA. What is an FIA, really quickly?
An FIA is a fixed indexed annuity. Think of it as a personal pension that you buy from an insurance company. It uses the same indexing strategy to protect your principal, but its primary purpose is to guarantee a specific payout for the rest of your life.
No matter how long you live. So stacking those specific assets creates a deeply insulated, holistic system. The pension and Social Security provide the baseline, but because the IULs are producing tax-free income, they don't trigger the tax torpedo on the Social Security.
Which protects your baseline.
And the final target in the presentation for this 31-year-old's income stack is roughly $117,000 a year in total retirement income.
And remember, that $117,000 is largely tax-free, insulated from market crashes, and structurally designed to last.
From starting with a $150,000 rollover and just a $500 a month contribution.
It's powerful.
That is the sheer power of the strategy. It's moving from a vulnerable, heavily taxed methodology that yields $875 a month to a mathematically engineered income stack generating $117,000 a year.
It completely reframes the objective of retirement planning. I mean, the objective isn't merely building net worth on a screen. The objective is maximizing sustainable, predictable cash flow.
What a fundamental shift. We started by looking at a financial problem that is secretly sabotaging millions of savers. You know, the traditional 401k leading to the income gap and the devastating tax torpedo.
Right.
But we explored how the index strategy proposed by our sources fundamentally changes the math. By prioritizing tax-free accumulation, positive loan arbitrage, and absolute protection from market losses, you stop hoping your money lasts, and you start designing a system of predictable income.
But it requires a highly proactive approach. You can't just set it and forget it in a target date mutual fund and expect these kinds of optimal results.
Yeah, that won't.
It requires utilizing the right structural tools and systematically managing your tax liability year over year.
Exactly. And, to be clear, the strategies outlined in these sources represent a specific approach that requires rigorous planning and stress testing against your own personal situation. But the underlying logic is incredibly compelling.
It really is.
So here is the direct takeaway for you listening right now. You don't have to guess what your future income will be. You can mathematically design it. Look at your own accounts today. Look at your statements. Ask yourself the hard question.
Are you building a reliable, tax-free income stream, or are you just building a vulnerable savings pile and hoping for the best?
That's the real question.
And as you review those accounts, I'll leave you with a final paradigm shift to ponder, something that goes beyond just taxes and market caps.
What's that?
Well, mountaineers will tell you that the vast majority of accidents don't happen on the way up the mountain, they happen on the way down.
Oh, wow.
The entire traditional financial industry is geared toward helping you summit, accumulating a massive pile of money, but they offer almost no structural guidance on the descent, how to safely distribute that money without slipping on volatile markets or unexpected taxation.
That's so true.
If your entire financial strategy is built only for the ascent, you are totally unprepared for gravity. Maybe it's time to ensure you actually have a plan to get back down the mountain safely.